Hey y'all, welcome back. This is Michelle from Michelle's Empty Nest, and today we are going to get started on my August project, which is the Me, Myself, and I prompt list that was created by Heba from my little journal, and I will have her channel linked below. She did this in January for her birthday month, and I thought it would be pretty interesting to try to do it myself in my birthday month, which is August. So I've already shared just the kind of real quick overview of how I have this set up in a previous video, and I'm kind of giving it a subtitle of Having Fun at 51, because I will be 51 in August, and that way it would just be a little bit more personalized to me. Now, on my prompt list, if that's anywhere in camera, I did make a few changes, and so I just printed the changes on a piece of cardstock and then trimmed them down and glued them in. It was mostly just some rearranging and a splitting up of one prompt into a couple of other prompts to replace one that didn't really apply. So I am using the Heidi Swap Storyline Chapters book, and I am going to do 1 day per page. So this will actually be 2 days on this spread. So I've done a little bit of pre-planning, and I have 2 days worth of materials in a scrapbook.com envelope. I really like these because they're thin and sturdy. I do still use some glassine bags and some of the zipper pouches that like Stories by the Month kit comes in and that kind of thing. But I don't know, these to me, I just like them because they're sturdy and they slide really easily against each other. Sometimes the envelopes, the zipper envelopes don't. So I do like using these. I need to get some more. And I'm also using Crystal Idunyate's little planning sheets that she offers for free. And it has all of the different, she has one for 12 by 12, 6 by 8. She has one for all the different sizes that you could possibly come up with. And they're always linked for free down in her channel. So I will link that below as well. So I've packaged up the pre-planning portion of what I've got ready for day 1 and 2. And I did want to say that for these days, I'm using some Freckle Fawn materials that you'll see in a minute, and also some of the February kit from Paper Person made from scratch. Now, for any stamping that I do in this album that goes directly onto the page, I am going to use my Distress ink in Black Soot. I did a little stamp test in one of these smaller Heidi Swap Storyline Chapters notebooks, and it's not a real huge difference in the amount of ghosting, and it may not even show up on screen at all, but it did have less ghosting than anything else. And so that's what I've decided to try to use throughout the album. So what I'm going to do is attempt to just go ahead and do my process, and then I'll fast forward this and hopefully be able to just do a voiceover, and plan to do actually 4 days in one video. All right, so I'm gonna get this stuff set to the side and get started. All right, let's go. Okay guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get everything set out and ready for day 1. And while I'm doing that, let me say that this is a longer video because I'm trying to do 4 days at one time in one video. And with it being my first process video and trying to get everything done, it was just a little awkward and strange feeling. So a little longer on this one. So you see there, I had my picture from a Thursday 3 from a couple of weeks ago, and I'm matting it on a striped paper from Freckled Fawn. And then I'm going to stamp the title at the top, which is me. That's the name of the prompt for today. So you saw me just kind of laying out the size of the stamp there to make sure I didn't go too high up. And these flowers were fussy cut from the opposite side of this striped paper. So I fussy cut out 5 of those in kind of each of the colors that were available in a full flower or close to a full flower. And I'm going to get those adhered down. And then that number 1 up there is going to change a bit because I changed the color, and I also decided that I wanted to stamp them all on textured basil cardstock. I like the look of that with a filled stamp, and I changed it to flamingo ink from Close to My Heart, which I thought matched a little better. So I did that after the video stops. So I'm using the classic Heidi Alpha from Heidi Swap just to stamp me, and it was a little bumpy under there, so I pulled out that little pad that just helps in traveler's notebooks and these kind of notebooks to cover up any lump and bump. I went around the world trying to figure out where I wanted to put this number 1. Ended up deciding there. I cut out a lot of that footage so you didn't have to see all of that. And now I've gone and printed my journaling, and I had a lot more to say than I thought I did, so I realized I was going to have to do a little flip up to take care of that. So luckily I had just enough of this flower paper left that I could make the cover for the flip up. So I'm getting the journaling cut out, and all I did to separate is I just, entered twice and got a little line break there so that I could cut it in half. And then I'm going to make a hinge out of just regular copy paper. I normally do them at 2 inches, but these pieces aren't even 2 inches wide, so I had to shorten that a bit. And then I'm going to grab a scoreboard, score it in half, and then I'm going to get all of those 3 pieces adhered onto the parts of the hinge, and then the back of the hinge itself will be adhered down to my paper. And I was glad I had that little bit of floral paper left just so it could tie in nicely with the rest of that page. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of start talking about day 2. It's favorite food. I have a hard time just narrowing things down to 1. So I did foods with an S, and I did 3. And you're going to see those come up here in just a minute. So I'm trimming off a little bit of the little hangover part, and I am going to have to place it on top a couple of those petals of that light blue flower since I ended up making it larger than I had originally planned, but that's okay. It's perfectly fine. And then I am going to bring in my Teflon bone folder just to give it a really good tight crease to help it not look quite so floppy until it gets pressed down with the weight of the book. All right, then we're going to pull in all the stuff from day 2, and the papers are from Paper Person. It's a little more orange in real life than what it's looking like on my screen, and so I used orange and some navy because those colors usually look real well together. So I'm getting that little, I think it might have been about 4, maybe 4 inches wide. And then on that, I'm going to put my 3 pictures. I am using my corner rounder as well because these books do have rounded corners, so I did the quarter rounder. And that card is also from Paper Person that says you are what you eat. And I'm going to back it with a little piece of that blue scallop paper just to give it something to help it pop off the page because my journaling is also on white paper. So I wanted to have a little bit of color there. And I cut my journaling out. There comes my 3 pictures, a souvlaki, a cedar plank salmon, and a cheeseburger deluxe from a little drive-in at my hometown called Piggy Park. It is delicious. And you see my 2. I've already fussy cut that. I'm not sure where that footage went, but I stamped it in tomato soup from Paper Person, so it matches that paper perfectly. And then I've got these Studio Calico stickers, and I'm just going to put Fave Foods up there as my title. And I'm going to kind of skip forward here so you don't have to watch me stick down all those stickers as well. And that finishes up for day 2. Then I've got a packet that has all of my materials for day 3 and 4, including my planning sheets, got my stamps and everything in there. So I'm going to get all that set up and ready. And I chose 3 fears, my biggest 3. It is that something would happen to my husband and children, my house would catch on fire, or that someone would break into my home when I'm alone. So that's what I'm going to document here, and I'm using the Apollo outline as well as the solid from Feed Your Craft, and I am stamping it with Crackling Campfire Distress Oxide color. And it's kind of ironic that I'm talking about fire, but it's just the color that seemed like it went well with my pictures. That picture of my husband and boys were when the day that we brought our 3rd son home from the hospital. So I just decided to kind of go back and use that old throwback picture. So I've sped through the red part. Now we're going to come in with the outline, and I forget to put my little pad back under there, so the M ends up being a little wonky with the outline. So it really does help to put that stamp pad under there when it's a project that's not able to be put onto like a Sizzix foam stamp pad. All right, so I've got all of that and the outlining done, and I'm going to grab the pictures again and get them laid out on the page like I want. And originally I was just going to cut up little pieces of journaling and lay it out beside the 3 pictures. And I ended up having way more to say than I thought. I did some very raw, emotional, personal journaling. That, by the way, you will see close-ups at the end, as well as pictures over on Instagram, if you would like to check me out over there as well. So I've got those pictures. That's how they're going to be laid on the paper. And now I'm starting to work on the little journaling. So each one has a front and a back piece. And I used that tab punch there to punch out 6 tabs so that I could do a double-sided tab. And I'm just sandwiching it in between the 2 parts of the journaling so that they can just pull right out from behind the photos. And this is the 3rd one of those, so I've already done the other 2. Then I'm going to grab over my score tape and start getting that added to the photos. And I'm just also making sure that the way that I had measured things to work out is still working. So you see me kind of pulling that journaling tab back over a couple of times to make sure it fits. And it works really nicely. And then I'm going to go ahead and get all 3 of those the score tape placed on all 3 of those. And I'm using a pokey tool. I almost always use that to pull off the release paper. I have a hard time sometimes getting it to get started, so the pokey tool for me makes it much easier and faster. And we're going to go ahead and skip to the 3rd one being put into place, and the tabs put in place behind the photo. And then when we move over to, let's see. Nope, we got to talk about the number 3 first. So I have it fussy cut out here in just a second, and I also use the Crackling Campfire for it. And then we're going to move over to day 4, and I used a little strip of paper from Ellie Studio just to kind of balance out some of that color on the other side of the paper, or the other side of the photo, and just not have a plain picture stuck down to the page. And so I'm getting everything like I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that strip, and then I think I start on the number 4. So I started off with Paper Person Orca. I probably should have stuck with that one. I kind of think now it would have looked better. But at the time, I ended up trying 2 other Color Theory from Studio Calico, and I ended up using Clean Slate, which is more, it ended up looking more like a black than a darker mid-tone gray, which is what I was going for. But I mean, it doesn't look terrible. It works. So I get that done, and get that fussy cut out, get the journaling and the photo put into place. And then I move to the Together piece, which is a fabric piece from Allie Edwards. So I pull in some red line tape for that one so that it'll have a nice sturdy hold. So there you see, that's the color that I end up going with at the end. And I'll get that cut out, get those last few pieces adhered into place, and that will finish out this for today. All right, guys, this is completed, day 3 and day 4. I did the rest of the stamping, or maybe all of the stamping, off screen because I knew I was going to have to get my head way over there to get it close to being straight. And I like the way this little font looks. It kind of bled out a little bit, and it made it look a little more chalky or something. So I like how that turned out. So let's go back and look at the days that we have covered in this video. The first one was just, the prompt was me. So this was a Thursday 3 picture, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And I thought I would use it since I had on a nice bright colored shirt. I mentioned my tattoo that I recently just got. It's my one little word, fearless. I mention it in the journaling. And so I also like that you could see the tattoo in the picture and kind of relate those two things back together. And somehow I always manage to get some sort of adhesive on my pictures. I don't know. I can't ever seem to keep them clean. Number 2 was favorite foods. And so it may have actually been food. Yes, it just says food, no S. I rarely compare things down to just one. It's just something in me that is hard to do. If you say, what's your favorite band or your favorite, candy, I'm usually going to give you 2 or 3. It's just something that I do. I don't know. So I picked 3 things that I could eat over and over and over again. And it is a souvlaki from Aviano's, a cedar plank salmon from O'Charlie's, and a cheeseburger deluxe from Piggy Park, which is a little drive-in restaurant. Car hops come out, real old-fashioned, but the most delicious grease you'll ever eat in the world is in that sandwich and on those fries right there. So these papers were from Paper Person. These were, I believe, Freckled Fawn. Yes, I'm going to go with Freckled Fawn because they're double-sided. And I just fussy cut these flowers out of this side of the paper and then use the striped paper as the mat. All right, so for day 3, it was my fears. So I did 3 because I have 3 major ones. I have a very irrational fear about my husband or my children being in some kind of catastrophic accident, doing even just the most mundane things. House fire, same thing, terrified. My parents lost their house to a fire. Just several things over the years have made it worse and worse, and I have a real fear of fire. Not just fire like in a campfire, but a home fire, a house fire. And then also someone breaking into my house. And I'll have all the pictures where you can read the journaling if you want. Some of it is pretty personal and soul-bearing, but my goal is to always be authentic here. Some of this relates to my mental health issues that I deal with. And so I wanted to include the journaling and make it be available for you if you wanted to read it. All right, so then day 4 was something that I miss. Well, I miss my boys all being at home, and I kind of just journaled about, we went through various stages of empty nesting as one went off to college and came back, and one moved to another state and came back, and one moved in with bandmates and came back. And so eventually they were all back. And then our youngest, who is here, actually decided to purchase a home 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, and that he would be the landlord for the other 2. So he owns the home and the other 2 live there with him. They've always gotten along so well. They're all very close in age. They're within 3.5 years of each other. And, you know, they just grew up together, grew up having the same friends, the same interests. And so I really do adore the relationship that they have. Not that they don't get on each other's nerves, but they do enjoy spending time with each other. Okay, guys, I think that's where we're going to call this one. I appreciate you stopping by today to watch my video. I'll have some things linked below that I've mentioned as far as Heba's channel, Crystal's channel for the little planning sheets if you've never heard of those. And then also maybe just some products that I used, I may link down there. Nothing is an affiliate link yet. I have not reached any status close to that. So they'll just be links if you want to find something. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, I would surely appreciate you clicking on the like button. And I would also love if you would subscribe to my channel. So I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.